It's clear that you're extremely talented and knowledgeable and experienced in telecom law. What is not so clear to me is why you couldn't be more forthcoming in that first hearing. And your comments today about the agreement that none of this would be disclosed seems to me that what you did say was misleading at best. And maybe not intentionally so, but there wasn't much information in the answer you gave, but there was information in the question that you didn't walk away from. So we had every reason to believe that that settlement was $32 million as opposed to whatever the settlement was. And then I think I read somewhere that the actual exchange of money was much less than the settlement amount. Do you regret your answers the first time you were here to that question?
Senator, if I had talked about the $700,000 in that exchange, in that QFR, I would have been violating the confidentiality of the settlement agreement. That I would have regretted.
Ms. Sohn, that's actually incorrect. What provision of the agreement says you're not allowed to? All right, I have it in front of me. It's provision 6.0, and here's what it says. I'm going to quote it.
Well, because it's a confidential agreement.
No, under the terms of it, you were not allowed to talk to the press about it, but you were allowed to.
No, that's not what counsel has advised me. I could not speak about it orally or in writing, but that's beside the point.
That's what the provision says. We're not.
Well, that's how you interpret it, but that's not how I was advised by counsel. But the larger point is that.
Are you an activist, yes or no?
I'm an advocate.
An advocate, okay. You classify yourself as a public interest advocate, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me what is the difference between the two terms, advocate and activist?
You know, activist, I'm not sure there is that much of a difference. I mean, people treat the word activist as if it's something bad. I don't think it's bad, but I don't consider myself a public activist. I consider myself a public advocate.
Okay, so as your term you used earlier, it's a distinction without a difference.
I asked you specifically how your actions as a public interest advocate shouldn't bear on your ability to appear as a neutral regulator. Your response was, the quote was, context is very important. The tweets were made in my role as a public interest advocate, part of my job. And then you say, in not recusing yourself because of the Locast, but because of your public advocacy. I'm a little confused about how you draw the line there. Why did you decide that the recusal would be for this one topic if it was part of your work as a public interest advocate as opposed to part of your service on the Locast board?
That's a good question, Senator. And to be honest with you, if I had to do it all over again, I probably would have mentioned something about Locast in that letter. Thinking about it now, I wish I had said something about the Locast, but clearly, I mean, there's no reason given what transpired at the hearing. It was clearly related to the Locast, my service on the Locast board. Like I said, I probably should have made it broader. I didn't, but clearly that's what I was addressing. I think everybody knew that. I wish I had been more specific.
Recusal, is that not correct?
That's not correct. They do not support my nomination. They are remaining neutral, which is where they were before.
Okay, here's what I have. When your nomination came out, they expressed grave concerns. After the recusal, they said, quote, Sohn's recusal agreement resolves the concerns of NAB raised during her nomination. We look forward to the Senate moving forward with Ms. Sohn's confirmation. If that is a neutral statement, that's not the way I read it.
We talked after the letter was filed, and he told me NAB is not supporting my nomination. They remain neutral.
So do you think you can be unbiased when you are working with these companies? Because while you are recused on media issues, it seems like you can't be impartial when it comes to the other issues, and this is my concern.
I understand, Senator, and let me assure you that whatever I may have said as a public advocate will have no bearing on how I look at the record and make decisions. What I said in my previous job is not going to impact how I look at and balance the record of a proceeding.
Is will you publicly disavow these organizations like Fight for the Future and Free Press who spearheaded these efforts?
Well, I have publicly already, let's put it this way, criticized, well, I don't think I've publicly criticized, I certainly have criticized those tactics. I don't agree with those tactics.
My time's running out. It is of concern to me because you have tweeted support for these groups. You have made donations to these groups. And then you have been a public interest advocate for the issues. You share the sentiment that these groups are pushing forward because you have advocated for that. So being impartial as a commissioner, separating yourself, there's been a lot of discussion about recusal today. These are things that people are, and rightfully so, we are all very concerned about this. You've taken very pointed positions. Okay, let me ask if you agree with the following actions, because these are actions that were carried out by organizations that you have both praised and have been on the record of donating to. And
Make it stop, and I made it stop. So I did not support,
so you
certainly
were
not support that.
deeply intertwined with these organizations.
No, I would say I was the outreach coordinator for Chairman Wheeler, so it was my job to tell these people to make it stop, and I did.
lay it.
Okay, I am no way affiliated with those groups. Do I make small contributions at the end of the year because we work together on some issues? Sure. That doesn't mean I approve of everything they do.